This is the start of the Donna Adelson trial. Jury selection is starting. And like I said, this is personal. I call myself the Florida lawman. It's trademarked, by the way. So don't get any ideas, Mark Eiglarsh. But Danny and I were friends when I was a state senator, and he was someone who could have made a lot of money in the private sector. He was a Harvard Law graduate, and instead he went into teaching and in a smallish town of Tallahassee, and he loved it. His students loved him. He wrote. He was prominent nationally in his writings, and he then had a bitter divorce from his wife, Wendy, who also is a lawyer, who also worked in Tallahassee, although she's from South Florida. And for those who don't know the difference, there's a big difference between where Mark Eiglarsh lives in South Florida, and I live down here too, and then North Florida, Tallahassee. It's an 8-hour drive from Miami to Tallahassee, and it's like night and day. One's a big, urban, very diverse area. The other one is a smaller college town with government in Tallahassee. And Wendy did not want to stay in Tallahassee. She wanted to take the kids to South Florida. And when the marriage split up, there was a bitter custody dispute. And the Adelsons, Wendy Adelson, her mother, Donna Adelson, her brother, Charlie Adelson, they were determined to get those kids down to South Florida. They offered to bribe Danny. They said, we'll give you $1 million. No. Then in court, it was really brutal, very nasty. And when Donna Adelson was found to be bad-mouthing the ex-husband, Danny Markell, in front of the children, Danny Markell said, no more unsupervised visits for the grandma. I moved the court to require supervision. And that's when, allegedly, Donna and Charlie put the plan into action to have Danny killed through hitmen. And finally, after 11 years, Donna is now on trial. Jury selection began on Tuesday. And I want to discuss this because, like I said, this is near and dear to me. Phil Holloway, I know you've been following this closely because you and I message off air a lot about this case. What's your take? Are they going to find a fair and impartial jury for this woman who has been known worldwide as the one who put this plan into action?
Oh yeah, they're going to find a jury, and the prosecutor seems to think that they're going to find it, before the end of the week. And so, look, there's a lot of people that have moved into Tallahassee in that general area since Dan was murdered back in 2014, so brutally in his garage by these hired hitmen killers. There's been a lot of people that have moved in. So you got people obviously that are there that have followed the case, that are potential members of the jury, but you got a lot of new people there that may be just learning about it for the first time. So I think they're going to be able to find a jury. The thing that I'm watching the most closely in this case is exactly what Donna's defense is going to be, because there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, including I think the most compelling of it all is her trying to jump on a flight to Vietnam. And I think we got video of that, but she's trying to jump on a flight to Vietnam where there's no extradition treaty. And she's on a recorded phone call talking about having researched Vietnam and other places with no extradition treaty. But is she going to say that, look, I was aware of this only after the fact, and yes, I may have covered up for my son and tried to help him, Charlie, and tried to help him kind of get out of this thing, but I was being blackmailed, by these Latin kings, and I was being blackmailed from others who I thought were more Latin kings, turns out to be the FBI, and I was scared and I was running because I didn't know what to do. Is that going to be her defense, or is there going to be something that's going to tie her to being the mastermind of this before Dan was murdered? And so I'm very curious to see. I think their defense is probably leaning towards her being an accessory after the fact. And it's noteworthy, and I'll shut up after this, it's noteworthy that she's only charged, she's charged with murder, she's charged with conspiracy, and she's charged with solicitation for somebody to commit murder. So those three charges do not mention accessory after the fact. And so if she were to take the stand and admit to being an accessory after the fact, and the jury believes that, she could be acquitted of all the charges in that indictment.
It's a really good point. I want to go to the point you made also on the circumstantial evidence when she attempted to flee the country. You want to talk about consciousness of guilt? How about buying a one-way ticket to Vietnam, a country with no extradition?
She bought a one-way ticket to Vietnam, and that shows consciousness of guilt. But I did hear that her defense is the following, and don't kill the messenger. They knew that possibly she would be required to come back to the U.S., but they didn't know when. So they bought a one-way ticket there, waiting for them to say, okay, now we want you to come and surrender. And they would have then bought another ticket to come back home. There, I said it.
The problem with that garbage is that she doesn't have to. She wouldn't have to come back to turn yourself in if you didn't leave in the first place. So
Right.
That's the only problem. I think
there's another problem.
Yeah, there's other problems.
There's another problem. She's caught on tape in her recorded jail call with Charlie saying that I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to flee to a country with no extradition treaty with the United States. Okay, well, there you go.
That's a problem. I'll tell you what's also a problem for me. So we've got her on the street corner, approached by an undercover officer who says things to her that if she was innocent, if it was you, Dave, Phil, me, we would say, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. You're saying we owe you something for something. What does that mean? Instead, she calmly just goes on her way. And I think that's a problem for her.
You had this undercover cop who approached her out of the blue, surprising Donna, saying that you got to take care of my friend who's in prison for you know what. And if you didn't know what you know what was, if you had no idea what this was, you would just say, huh? And then you would take the piece of paper which said $5,000 on it, and you would throw it away. Or you would call the cops. But she didn't either. She called the alleged extorter and started to talk to him, to plead with him to leave her alone. And then at the end, she didn't say, I'm reporting you or goodbye. She said, I'll call you back.
Yeah, Charlie. She called Charlie too, didn't she? She called Charlie to talk about it, and then Charlie called the who he thought was the hitman's brother, who turns out to be an undercover cop. And at first he says, "I don't know who you're talking about," but by the end of the conversation, he's like, "I'll get back with you." Like, of course, it's like.
Yeah, and you know who she doesn't call, Phil? She doesn't
police.
Call 911. You're
Or her
kidding me? If
lawyer.
you're approached on the street and you know nothing about this, I mean, nothing. That's her argument. I don't know what he's talking about. By the way, the cop does a great job. He looks very credible and believable. Great acting. Better than the parents who claimed that their kid was taken. But, you call 911 right away. That is what a normal, innocent person does. And that is going to be a strong piece of evidence for the prosecution.
And it's already been ruled admissible, is my understanding.
As it should be.
You're going to have some of the same evidence that was used to convict Charlie and the others. I think only one of these guys took a plea deal. One of the hitmen, but not the trigger guy, right?
Correct.
The prosecutors know how to try this case, and they're moving their way systematically through the most culpable defendants in the most logical way. And now they're at the matriarch mastermind, so to speak. And then the question is, though, like, is she going to rat out her daughter? Is she going to try to throw Wendy Adelson, the mother of these children, under the bus?
Speaking of that, Dave, let me ask you. The judge made a ruling adverse to the defense, who wanted to call Wendy, the daughter, to testify, and the judge quashed their subpoena. Right decision, wrong decision? What do you think?
It was the right decision. Tension
Agreed.
between Wendy, right, and her mom here. And her mom could turn on Wendy, but she will never, never do that. But here in court, you had the defense, Donna, wanting to subpoena Wendy to testify in her mom's defense. And Wendy saying, I am not doing that because you, the defense, cannot give me immunity. She knows she's likely to be next. So she's going to testify for the prosecution, who's going to give her immunity. And the defense can cross-examine her, and that would have immunity because it'll be on the same subject matter. But if she wants to go beyond that, nope, she doesn't have to. The defense lawyers can't ask her anything beyond that. And then she's gone because she lives in Texas.
What about the defense's proposal? Well, Judge, this is a premature ruling. Let's bring her in. Let us be able to ask certain questions. Maybe they're so innocuous that she doesn't plead the fifth, was the defense's position. And the judge said, no, I'm following the first DCA case law, and it supports the state's position. You can't do that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's tougher. I actually think having a proffer and getting the idea would have been the better approach. I mean, now once she's done, They'll ask the prosecutor, is she released? And the prosecutor will say, yep. And then she's gone. You can't call her back because she'll be in Texas. And as a lawyer in Florida, you have no jurisdiction over her. So that is the danger here. And I do think that would have been the better approach, Mark. I don't know.
Well,
what
got
do you think, Phil?
Is this an issue on appeal, Phil?
The judge said they're going to get, the defense is going to get a very thorough and a very sifting cross-examination, just like any state's witnesses. And the judge did say, if something comes up during the trial and we need to revisit this issue, he's open to it. So the judge didn't completely foreclose that door. I mean, he says, look, I mean, this is the ruling that I'm going to make going in, but if something comes up and we need to we'll rethink it. But Dave, I've been thinking about this, as you know. We've been talking about it offline, and I might disagree with you a little bit. I sense that there's some bad blood that's has been brewing and is festering and is probably getting stronger over time between mom and daughter, right? I think that we've got mom on recorded audio where she's basically expressing a lot of frustration with Wendy right after, Charlie was sent to prison. And so I don't know that those two really are that much that close. I don't think there's much love lost at this point. Maybe she's decided, I'm going to go ahead and throw Wendy right under the bus and focus her defense in that direction. I wouldn't at all be surprised. You say it's unlikely. And you are you guys are the Florida experts, and you may very well be right. But I'm gonna wait and see if something doesn't surprise us, because I think that the prosecution is going for Wendy next, and I think if there's anything that they can do to develop that theory, they're going to go after Wendy. And even though she's been granted immunity for what she says under the state subpoena, that doesn't mean she has immunity from prosecution in general. So I think they're developing a case very methodically against Wendy, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her as the next defendant.
I agree. If Donna's convicted, I think Wendy's next. If Donna's acquitted, this whole thing is over, but I do think she'll be convicted. One last thing about Donna and Wendy. The thing that matters most in the world to Donna are grandkids. That's why she allegedly did all this. So to take away the mother of the grandkids, to put her in prison and let Donna, the grandmother, live for the next, 10 years she has left, 15 years? She's not doing well behind bars. I don't know. I can't imagine she would do that, make that trade. Mark Eiglarsh, I'll give you the last word.
I think that nobody wants to spend any time in prison, and I wouldn't be surprised if this family starts to point fingers, at a minimum, just to help their own case, not because they think that would lead to the prosecution, let's say, of Wendy. So mom may throw Wendy under the bus if that's necessary to help herself, but that doesn't mean that Wendy then is going to face prosecution and that whatever the mom says will carry any weight.
Thanks, Mark. Well, next, we have updates on Brian Kohberger and the Devil's Den Killer. If you have any questions or comments for us, we've got an opportunity for you to reach us. We want to answer your questions on the air. You can now email us at mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. That's mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. We would love to hear from you.